when Amsterdam was fluoridated, all the communities around Amsterdam were fluoridated too. Only Haarlem was not fluoridated. And I'm in the south of Haarlem, so half of my practice was fluoridated and the other was not fluoridated. And then at the moment the fluoridation started, I saw the side effects I had learned from Walbot in America. And then I founded this doctors group and they said, we are going to look for the side effects. And I have trained these doctors for 2 months. And then they found them in plenty in their own practices. So we said there are indeed side effects, and a lot of them. That was not just a statement, that was because we had seen them ourselves and we could prove that it was for the fluoridation, because, say, what we had directly after fluoridation were a lot of babies who yelled the whole night and the whole day because they had tummy aches. And this came from fluoridation. But there are a lot of people, a lot of babies who yell for another reason. We could prove that it was the fluoridated water because as soon as we say make the bottle with non-fluoridated water, these babies stopped yelling. And when for one reason or other they got it again, they started yelling again. So these were very good proofs that we were right, there were side effects in plenty.
So it was scientific proof that convinced them?
Absolutely, and we have even proved it with double-blind tests because, well, for me, they weren't so necessary, but there was one very scientific chap and he said, no, we must do double-blind tests. No, well, we have done double-blind tests, and with the double-blind test we got the same result. Okay. One of the things we saw a lot was headache. We saw a lot of tummy aches. We saw we had a colleague working in our doctors group, and this colleague didn't believe in what he was doing. He said, "Well, I work with you, but I don't think it's so bad." And after a couple of months, he was looking a little bit shady, and I said, "What's the matter with you, Tom?" He said, "Well, for the last 2 months I have had a very nasty stomach ache, and of course he was 65. He was very afraid that he had a cancer." And then another one of the group said, "Isn't this fluoride, Tom?" He said, "No, of course not." I said, "Well, please stop fluoride." And he rang me and said, "Good heavens, it was fluoride." I said, "Of course." And then a month later he rang me up and said, "Has come back, isn't fluoride, because I've been on non-fluoridated water." I said, "Tom, you're going to look back what you've drunk the last 24 hours. And he rang me up, he said, "You know, I was busy with a woman, she was having a child, and I went down to the kitchen and there was non-fluoridated water, and I used to make coffee with it, and later on I heard that some other woman who didn't know what was in the jerry can had thrown the water out and to put new fluoridated water in." That was a spontaneous double-blind test.
Did proponents of fluoridation acknowledge your double-blinded experiments, like you said before, showing some people were super sensitive to fluoride in drinking water?
No. As a matter of fact, we wanted to know if we began a court case against the government, if this court case would hold water. And then you can do something in Holland, and it is called a valetudinary inquiry. You make a sort of court case that is not valid, but only testing the ice of it strong enough. So we were up against the attorney from the state, and we came with our proofs, and the attorney of the state was so very astonished about what we have found. He said, I'm not going to fight you." And then we knew that we were very well on the way. When we were fighting fluoridation, we knew quite a lot about it, but not enough. We knew the side effects, we knew the disfiguring fluorosis, we knew all these people with acute complaints. I must say here that when the acute complaints go on for some time, many of them vanish because our bodies get adapted to it. You get into the adaptation phase. And you have the acute phase with dizziness, blurry sight, the stomach aches, eczema, etc. Then many of these people adapt and they don't show anything anymore. But our immune systems have learned how to fight this fluoridate, not so much the poison, but to fight our own symptoms. They shut them off in our brains, so we don't feel them anymore. That can go on for 3, for 5, for 7 years, and then something else happens, some nasty infection, flu or whatever, or even stress in your family, and then suddenly this immune system breaks down and you get the exhaustion phase. In the exhaustion phase you see completely different complaints, for instance cancer, and for instance, and that's very important and I must stress that here, the Chinese scientists have found that fluoride lowers the intelligence coefficient, the IQ, in children. They found that in high fluoride regions there was a lower overall intelligence in children, less children able to go to the university, more children with an IQ 80, 90, so just ready to do a little bit of schooling. When too much fluoride is taken, you get arthritis-like complaints also. There is a village in Turkey which has a too high fluoride content, and they call it the village of the old people, because people of 30 years already walk with sticks because their joints are baked together by the fluoride. It is, and we saw the beginning of it because when fluoridation had been here for about 3-4 months, then the very sensitive people got arthritis-like complaints in their finger joints and below in the back. And when we gave non-fluoridated water, 1 week was not enough. We had to give it for 2 or 3 months before the joint complaints went away. The background of this is that we in Holland have been under the occupation of the Nazi regime. So we knew what it feels when someone wants to do something to you and you don't want to do it. 5 years are a big training. I was 14 I was 15 when the Germans marched in here, and 20 when they marched away. They nearly shot my father. He just escaped, and I saw how these people were. Never again dictatorial measures, even if they come from our own government. Overall, the single question that decided the whole thing is that we don't want taking a medicine, because fluoridation is a medicine. We don't want to take a medicine without having asked for it. So it was the matter of freedom. That was the great single factor which connected us all. But I think that the direct factor was that I got the Professor Dean Berg from the National Cancer Institute here. I knew him well. And he, together with Dr. Jan Jannes, had found a 10% extra death rate in a great research. And they have attacked these two scientists on a terrible way, but have never proved that they are wrong. And nowadays in Ireland they have found, it's just last year, they found the same extra cancer death rate. I'm absolutely convinced by the proofs several people have proven that it causes cancer. Yes, it is one of the. I think that it works together with other things that cause cancer. Fluoride always makes sick-making compounds a little bit worse.
How does fluoride cause harm in the human body, apart from everything you already said?
Well, this is a very difficult question, but because fluoride does so much harm on so many places. But all our metabolic processes are helped by enzymes. Enzymes are sort of catalyzers, and when the metabolic, for instance, the way our oxygen is processed in our body is helped by enzymes. The way our bones are built up is helped by enzymes. You can't have any process in the body that is not helped by enzyme. And fluoride is one of the most potent enzyme inhibitors. So it inhibits so many places in our body that it is very difficult to, in the beginning to say, you say fluoride gives this and it gives that and it gives that and it gives that, and this is crazy. No, it isn't crazy. When you know that it's a general inhibitor of enzymes which can do harm to all places in the body where enzymes are working.
How is fluoridation totalitarian?
What is totalitarian? Totalitarian is that there is someone or some government who says you have to do this and it makes no sense. For instance, you have to cheer every time the dictator comes along, or you have to have the belief the dictator has, or you have to take that into your body, which is not prescribed by a doctor, but is prescribed by the state. As soon as the state is not in balance by democratic votes, but as soon as there's one lording it over you, then you have a totalitarian state. And in fluoridation, there is put a poisonous thing into the water supplies. You can't evade it. Even when you don't want it, you get it. That's totalitarian. And totalitarian is, we have been under totalitarian regime. When you didn't do what the Nazis said, you were either tortured or you went to a concentration camp or you were shot. I have several friends who have been shot. Never give in to a totalitarian state. Fluoridation was started in 1953 here, and in 1976 it was discussed in the House of Commons, and it was discussed in the House of Lords. I take the English terms, it is the same thing here. And at last this law was put before the Parliament, and we had so many people behind us, it was 85% of the people, that this law was rejected. And the minister burst out in tears, and she left she left the House of Commons. So then there was this original law was restored. So now it was forbidden by law to put fluoridation in the water, because it was forbidden by law to put anything in the water unless you purified the water. It was for purified the water. The second thing is that we were so disgusted with what had happened that we said we must not have only a law that says no. We have a constitution, and in this constitution there's the fundamental law, and it has changed one in 50, 40 years. Then some things have changed in our culture, and we have to change some law. And then a new law was put in, and it was Article 11A, And this new said that everyone has the right on the inviolability of his own body because of this fluoridation. And this law was accepted. It is so that now it is forbidden by law and also forbidden in the Constitution to put things in the water to influence the bodies of people without their consent. So now it was forbidden by law.
Do you think Israel will stop or at least greatly reduce fluoridation?
Well, I've been very busy with Israel. I've been even on there was the main article on the first page of the Jerusalem Post was written by me. Very, very strange. But yes, I think I have heard that I have made real enemies under the two professors in Israel, and when I see how angry they are, I think that we may succeed. Yes. We don't want to take a medicine without having asked for it. So it was the matter of freedom. That was the great single factor which connected us all.